Everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. If you're new to my channel, I am so glad you're here. I happen to garden in the Zone 6 here in Missouri. I live right in the middle of the state. We live on 10 acres, which allows me lots of opportunity to grow different kinds of things. I am just your typical average home gardener. I have been gardening quite a long time. I happen to have my certification as a Missouri Master Gardener, but I am constantly learning. I'm learning from my friends. I'm learning from viewers like you who leave me great comments or suggestions. I learn by watching other YouTubers. In fact, I don't know if you can see it under the mic, my Garden Answer sweatshirt. I'm wearing that today. Garden Answer is probably, well, it's not probably, it's definitely the most popular YouTube channel for gardening. I think they started their Garden Answer channel about 10 years ago, and Laura and her husband Aaron are just so amazing in providing me and millions of viewers across the world inspiration on gardening at home. They've gotten quite a huge following, as I said, and they have a huge property, and they're gardening on a massive scale. I'm not. But what I love about following certain people online is I can take what they're doing and scale it down to fit my own space. So I hope you'll find some of my videos inspirational, educational, and just entertaining to see what's growing in my garden and what projects I am currently working on. Well, you see my sweatshirt. First time I've had to put my sweatshirt on yet this season, and I am ready for it. And that means it is turning cool here in my Missouri garden. In fact, right now it's about 48 degrees out, and I am loving it. I had a great spring and summer season in the garden, but I am so ready for fall. I'm ready to make this transition. I'm ready for a bit of a rest from all the big work that we do in spring and summer in the garden. And so today it's all about another monthly garden tour. I call them walkabouts. I call them walkabouts because many years ago when my sons were little, we would do a lot of what we call walkabouts. We would just go exploring, whether it was at home, whether it was on vacations, whether it was down at their grandparents' farm in Southwest Missouri. So that's why I call these monthly garden tours walkabouts. And so today I want to share with you what's still growing in the garden, what is done for the season, and things I need to be taking stock in, I call it, or evaluating for next year. And so I've mentioned this before on some of my walkabouts. I'm going to encourage you as a gardener to take photographs of your garden during different months, during seasons, different seasons. Take your camera out, maybe take even videos, because I don't know about you, but I can't remember a lot of things since I'm growing so many different things. And having photos of different garden beds and borders and things around your property will help you, and it helps me think about what I want to do the same or different next year, how certain plants performed. So anyhow, this is sort of an opportunity for me to journal what is happening in my space each month. So I'm going to grab the camera and we're going to do a walkabout tour just like we normally do, and things are going to look a lot different than they did just a month ago. Well, it wouldn't be an October garden tour if I didn't start our walkabout with this beautiful red maple. Isn't that glorious? It's just now starting to turn color, maybe a couple of days ago, and it's so beautiful. In a week or so from now, it will be absolutely fire engine red and just brilliant. It just glows. It's one of our favorite trees. So yeah, so I thought I'd start, of course, on the front side of the house. We'll take a little walk. This is where we typically start our walkabout. So let me turn the camera around and show you what things are looking like in the middle of October. So those of you that have been with my channel long know that I've got a couple of obelisks here with my favorite David Austin rose. It's called Gertrude Jekyll, and it is a climber. I have already cut it way back because it was all the way up to the gutter about a month ago, and it's it's trying to push on some new growth, which isn't great this time of year. But anyhow, I will do nothing to these They will be fine through winter here on the west facing side of the house. And then I'll do a prune, of course, next spring. Here we go. We've got our Jack Manny clematis, and there's still a few blooms. And of course, work array over here, we've got our front porch, and I did a recent video on how I spruce this up a little bit for fall. And this will stay like this until I redecorate for Christmas. Over here, you can see this is a shrub rose. This is called Oh So Easy Italian Ice. And I have mixed feelings about this rose bush. It is just a prolific bloomer in spring, sputters off and on through summer, and then all of a sudden here in fall it wants to do its big show. I think it doesn't fit this space well. I will probably pull this out and put something pretty dramatic here that gets a bit taller and can maybe cover that downspout. As we come around here, you've seen my North Pole arborvitaes that are new this year. I had, I can't remember what shrubs I had, but we pulled those shrubs out in the spring, and my son planted these North Pole arbs for me. And I had originally thought about a Belinda rose here, but now I'm about settled on the Summerific series from Proven Winners, the hardy hibiscus. They get massive. They flower off and on all season long. I really want some color here, and so I'm thinking next spring that would be a great spot for a Summerific hardy hibiscus. We've got our beautiful magnolia tulip tree, and then this looks a lot different than last month. So this was a garden bed my husband built. This is the south side of our house, just for me to grow more cut flowers. And typically I grow lots of different kinds of zinnias in this bed. It's about a 2-foot wide by 12-foot long bed. This year I decided to put in some of the Floret Cancun Girl Dahlia seed. And as much as I love Erin and Floret Farms, and I've gotten a lot of other things from her that I love, I will not be growing those dahlias from seed again. They were a mix, and gosh, just a few of them did well, and the rest of them not so well, and their flowers just never lasted very long. So that was kind of a disappointment, but that's what gardening's all about, trying new things. So I've already pulled those out. But you see, I've got a couple of dahlias here that actually weren't the Cancun Girls. They were from tubers that I overwintered. So here's the deal on dahlias. Leave your dahlias until you get a really hard frost or freeze. Once all this foliage turns black and yucky, then that is the time you pull up your dahlias and sort the tubers and store them throughout the winter. You have to do that in my zone. If you're in a zone that's 0 to 8, 0 to 7B, you need to store your tubers in the winter. They won't survive in the soil because we get too cold here. But if you're lucky to live in a zone 8 or above, you can just leave your dahlia tubers in there all winter long, and they'll come back next year. So anyhow, taking stock, this is the time I'm trying to remember what I want to do for next year and make decisions. And I am going to not put dahlias in here next year. I'm going to grow a variety of zinnias. Lovely Baptisia false indigo. It flowers in the spring. It's magnificent. They're doing fine. I've got some Russian sage here and here. Those of you who have been with me know that I am probably going to pull out peonies. So I have 4 peonies. Let me get in close here with a nice big weed in the center. I am going to let the peonies bloom next spring. They'll be blooming in May, and they only look decent for about 3 weeks. And so once they are done blooming, I'll cut all the blooms for cut flowers, and then we're going to dig those puppies out, and I am going to put in something else, a flowering shrub or a really nice hardy perennial that will give me some flower power. So yeah, they've been in this spot for about 4 or 5 years now, and I'm just not happy with their short life. The foliage looks horrible. Um, much of the year. So anyways, that's why you see them cut back. Here is a Miss Molly Buddleia, and I haven't deadheaded because we're going into fall. And so you can see a lot of the spent blooms, but here still it's pushing out some blooms that are still pretty. But this, yeah, do nothing with your Buddleia. You leave it just as is, and then in spring I'll do a hard prune down. Probably I like to cut them back to about 10 inches off the ground, and they will just shoot up. This is a good 4 foot tall and about 3.5, 4 feet wide. And so there you go. Got some Super Tunia Vista bubble gum. I'm telling you, you hear me every single time. Every garden tour tell you if you only grow one annual flower, it needs to be the Super Tunia series from Proven Winners. There is a petunia for everybody. And so here is my hosta border. You can see, if I come in a little closer, that I have already cut them all back. I have been doing that for many years. I cut my hostas back in early fall, very late summer, early fall, and they come back beautifully the next year. That way I can dispose of all their leaves if there's anything that's suspect in terms of damage or insects or I don't usually get powdery mildew on hosta, but anyways, they were looking pretty tired and crispy here at the end of summer. So those got cut back. I've got space down here now next year for something. I'm not sure what I'm going to put there, but I for sure know that in this corner here, I want something that really has color because, of course, hostas don't. They just have beautiful shades of green. So I am going to put in one of those summerific hardy hibiscus from Proven Winners. I'll see if I can put a picture on the screen of the varieties I'm looking at. So I mentioned I might put one out on the front of the house, and I may put another one right in this spot, and it will fill it in because they can get rather large. And that is what I'm hoping for next year. All right, this is an east-facing bed, and you know, this is my challenge bed. I've featured this several times on my videos. This bed holds water horribly. And so recently I had my son come out who has a landscaping business and had considered having he and his crew dig this out about 6 inches to 8 inches down, put in some topsoil and compost so that I'd have a better growing medium and hopefully it would help with the drainage. But you know what? We have decided against that. It would be very costly and time consuming. This bed is about 14 foot long and 7 feet deep. I am going to instead plant things in here through my research that shows that they can handle some wet feet. These are Limelight Prime hydrangeas. They do okay in moist conditions. Those hardy hibiscus I just mentioned do great in uh, moist conditions, and things like Monarda. So I have collected a list of things that supposedly do well in wetter conditions, and I'm just going to try that next year and see how things work. So what's left right now, of course, are the Limelight Primes that'll stay in there till next season. I've got some salvia that's still going, and it's really pretty. I wish I could remember. Oh, there's a Bumble. Do you see Mr. Bumble? Let's see if I can get in here. He's taking a little snooze. Hello there, guy. Um, so yeah, they're still blooming. Here's another little salvia right there. I think you can see it. But basically, this is going to look different next year, and I hope be successful with choosing perennials that can handle a little bit of wet soil. And I'll definitely reassess the drip. We have drip irrigation in here, and so we'll modify that to make sure that it's not running very often at all. All right, let's move around here. So now we're getting to the north side of the house, and this is going to look way different than it did in September because I have pulled out all of the annuals and I have moved a few things around. So let me show you what it's looking like today. So these are Little Lime Punch hydrangeas. This is their third year, and they are absolutely incredible. Love them so much. I'll get a little close up. I had them interplanted with some Supertunia petunias in purples and yellows and pinks. That's gone. In this section, I had a bunch of coleus. You know, I love coleus, and they got enormous, like seriously 4 to 5 feet tall. I never thought they'd get that big. And over here, I had some more petunias and some coleus as well. I've got some astilbe, but I cut them back. You can barely see them. There's a little green growth. And then this bed should look very different. I had a lot of beautiful annuals, tons of color out here. But what I recently did is I recently removed 2 hostas. There were here and here, Big Daddy hostas. And what I did was I took one and relocated it to a different part of the property. And the other one I put back here. Let me come around here. So this is Big Daddy. He was out front. Now he's between these two. These two are variegated, and he's just green, big, beautiful green. So I stuck him back here because Brunnera, which is this gorgeous plant, I had these. This Brunner was here all summer. These two were kind of down here, and they got completely lost. So my idea is I want this Brunnera to fill in underneath this this Japanese maple tree. That's the idea, and then leave all this space out front for annuals for next year. So it looks very different than it did the year before. The other thing I've shared with you all that I learned, I'm always learning, but I learned this year, is that coleus, which I love, got enormous, and actually it wasn't scaled right. In other words, I had some coleus out here that got massive, and then behind it things were sort of shorter that you know couldn't see. They got gobbled up. So I'm going to be strategic next early summer, and I am going to do my coleus in the back all the way, this tier and this tier, to cover up some of the siding and have some color and height in the back, and then work my way down, which is pretty much standard gardening. Tall stuff in the back, medium and low. And so I really need to rework this next year, and I think it's going to be fine. But I'm most excited about this Brunnera filling in under Mr. Mikawa, our Japanese maple. All right, next stop on this October walkabout is the raised bed garden. So let me turn the camera around. Let's get inside here and I'll show you what's happening. Well, this should look a lot different to you all compared to September's garden walkabout. Got my nasturtiums. I still have some tower basil. Oh my goodness, y'all. I've never grown tower basil before. And I grew 3 of them this year, and they were magnificent. I've already made a bunch of pesto and frozen a bunch. I've shown you that in some prior videos, how I harvest and make beautiful pesto and use it all through the winter. But anyway, so let's take a look at what is still growing. You might be able to see a few things that you recognize that are still pumping out beauty this time of year. But with my forecast going down into the 30s for 2 or 3 nights, I'm going to be harvesting these flowers probably today. So yeah, pulled out the tomatoes and peppers. They were definitely done for the season. I've got some beautiful zinnias still growing. This is the Senorita variety. I am going to follow what I learned from Erin at Floret Farm, and I am going to try to harvest seed from these. I've never harvested seed from zinnia, but I'm going to try. I've been leaving these alone. I've not been cutting on these, so that I'm going to try to let them get a little bit more crispy. They're supposed to be really, really, really brown and crispy before you harvest them. Anybody interested in learning how to harvest seed from zinnias or dahlias, Erin has an amazing, she has free mini workshops on her website. I will link it in the description below. Floret Flower Farm. I have learned so much from her. She's an amazing teacher. She gives you really detailed step-by-step instructions on how to do most things. And so this year, I'm going to try to harvest some zinnia seed based on what I learned from Erin. This bed here, of course, is all pulled out, except I'm going to try the cool flower method. I'm not going to go into detail on what that is, but basically there are certain species of flowers, in this case, snapdragons, that depending upon your growing zone, you plant your seeds 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost. They root in somehow, and supposedly these snapdragons are not going to die over winter, and they're going to come back in the spring and early summer. So I have no clue if it's going to work, but what the heck, I thought I'd throw those in. And I've got my cloches on here because we have a tendency to have our birds come in, and they like to eat the little tender shoots that come up. We've had squirrels in here a few times, so I'm trying to offer them a little protection. So tucked over here in the corner, I've got my green stock vertical planter, and I had great success. Oh my gosh, first year ever growing in one of these, and I cannot say enough good things about this product. If you have a small space, if you know and love somebody that has an interest in gardening, and they don't have a space to grow anything in the ground, get them this. What a great Christmas gift. I'm telling you, it is so easy to grow in. I've pulled everything. I had lots of herbs, pepper plants, flowers. I've already pulled all those for the season, but what's left are my strawberries. You can see right here where they are growing, and I've done some research on the strawberries, and so I am going to probably cut the foliage back, cover each pocket with straw, and I'm going to move a couple of these tiers that have the strawberries up under our deck close to the house, and supposedly they should do fine through the winter and come back next year. So I'll keep you posted if that experiment works. So in this garden box, I've got a couple of dahlias. They didn't do so great, these dahlias, but here they are. And I've got something growing that does great in the cold, and that is cilantro. And I've already been harvesting from that for the last couple of weeks. So this is a great fall crop. Too late to be seeding it now for most zones, but cilantro, believe it or not, loves the cold weather. One thing that was a huge success and brought me so much happiness are the Thumbergia that I grew. This is an annual vine. Here's another Thumbergia, or some people call it black-eyed Susan vine. It is an annual where I live, but isn't that just so sweet? They did great. They are really filling in this raised bed that used to have loads and loads of cucumbers that I've already harvested. So I pulled the cucumbers, and now they are just taking over. So we'll see what the frost does to them, but they're just an annual, so I don't imagine we've got much life left from them. And then here's some more dahlias. And I am going to be cutting these because, as I said, we've got lows in the 30s this week starting tonight. So I'll be coming out and harvesting these beauties. Oh, I mean, dahlias. There's nothing like them. They just are the best. But you can see, they're tired. They're ready for a break. And again, I will harvest these because I want the blooms, but I will not pull my dahlias out of the ground until we get a really hard frost or freeze, until all this foliage, it will turn black overnight. And then I've got about, they say about a week after that happens to pull my tubers out of the ground, clean them up, separate and store them. I'll bring you along for that. I think I might have some videos you'll want to check out on how I harvest my dahlia tubers and how I overwinter them. Anyhow, so yeah, that's what's happening here. This bed, I've got some zinnias still going. These are the precious metals from Erin at Floret Flower Farm. Her seed. Didn't like these in the beginning of the season, but they ended up growing on me. And again, you know, they're looking tired, so I will harvest these today before our frost, and I will probably end up just pulling them all out. So, you know, I've got my trellis here, the little archway, and in this bed, all the crops are done, but you can see here and here are chives. Chives are a perennial, so they'll just stay here for the winter and hopefully come back next year. I think that's probably going to do it for the raised bed garden. Why don't we just go? I thought I might take you all to two more spots before we end the October walkabout. And here I am walking up one of the pathways in our 2-acre pollinator habitat. We are in our 3rd year with this beautiful habitat and could not say more good things about the experience. Loaded with pollinators, loaded with small critters, deer, all kinds of wildlife calls this 2-acre patch their home. It is magnificent in terms of blooming flowers in May and June. I mean, it is just a sea of golden whites. And it comes and goes throughout the rest of the summer. Of course, right now, it's going to rest. It's going to take its winter slumber, but there are still a few things blooming. I thought I might turn the camera around and show you all some of that. So things are looking like they should look this time of year, browning up, going to sleep for the winter. Couple of things I did want to highlight, and that would be, if you see this, this is called goldenrod, and it's losing its bright gold, but not long ago, it was just brilliant gold all throughout the 2 acres. Lots of goldenrod in bloom. And then I thought I might show you something that looks like a cute little daisy. It's called fleabane. Let me see if I can get up close and find some. I mean, it's all scattered throughout here. Let's take a look close up at that little flower. Isn't that sweet? It's interesting. Fleabane, it bloomed for us in the spring and then was taken over by lots of other things, and now here it is again blooming. So I can't be too sad about that. Let's see, is this coreopsis tucked down in here? Let me get in close and see what that is. No, I'm not sure what that golden flower is, but so basically you get the idea. Things are slowing down, but gosh, it is at its most magnificent, I would say, in May and June. It is just a sea of gold and yellow and white flowers. It is really something. One of the things I've talked about on my channel is my intention of wanting to get more purples and pinks in the garden out here. And so I'm going to be working with a native wildflower seed company that I got all the seeds for this. And I am going to probably sow some seeds of things like Liatris, Monarda. So we'll be doing that actually in winter, believe it or not. And hopefully that will give us more variety of colors and infuse a little more purples and pinks. But still one of my favorite spots to sit, enjoy a cup of coffee, a glass of wine, and know that I'm trying to do my part for all of the pollinators and small critters for habitat. So this October walkabout is about to come to the end, but before we end, I thought I might take you all inside my greenhouse to show you what I have taken from the garden and placed in there so that I can hopefully enjoy some of these plants through fall, and a lot of them I'll be able to keep growing through winter. So nothing quite says fall like beautiful mums, and I just love the color of these. Aren't they just so pretty? It's kind of a, I don't know, a pinky raspberry purple. I just think it's lovely. You've got some little pretty pansies in the front, but moms don't do well in frost, certainly not in freezes. And so I've got some frost cloth inside the greenhouse. I will be covering these pots anytime the temp's going to get below 40 degrees at night. And so hopefully I can keep them going a little bit longer. So let's go ahead and get in here and see what's happening in the greenhouse. And in fact, there's that frost cloth at the ready that I will be putting over those mums. So, okay, let's take a quick peek in here and I'll just show you some things that I recently put in here. And I did decide to go ahead and bring one of my lavender plants in. Lavender is a perennial. I've got some out in the cut garden, but I went ahead and popped a lavender in my little herb box here. You know my love for geraniums that I grow from seed. I love the Maverick geraniums. I get my seed from Swallowtail Gardens, and I think I've gotten seed from Eden Brothers as well, maybe. I can't remember, but yeah, so geraniums do phenomenally well in a greenhouse all winter long. These are going on a year and a half old. These are cuttings that I took from some of my other geraniums. So they'll be fine. And then this little bed, I recently featured this on a video where I took nasturtiums from my green stock vertical planter and popped them in the front here. And then of course my coleus, again, these are cuttings that I took from the coleus that was growing in the garden, and they are loving it here. They've only been in this box for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they're putting on so much growth. So these get rather tall. So I would imagine if I back up here and give you some sense of scale, my coleus will be tall and these beautiful nasturtiums will spill over the front and fill in nicely. I'm going to try to overwinter this fern from my back patio. So there it is. Another geranium. And then over here, I just recently potted up some more nasturtiums from my vertical stacker. That's, you might be able to see it through the greenhouse window. Anyways, I had some out there, like I mentioned, and I popped them in this beautiful tall antique pot. And I mean, wow, look at that. Dark red with a yellow throat, and oh gosh, just so pretty. So I just potted these up a few days ago and they are doing just fine. And I had these crotons. This is a house plant. It's a tropical. I had these out on my covered front porch when I did my fall spruce up. But I don't think they're going to do well in 30 degrees at night. So I decided to go ahead and transition them in the greenhouse where they're going to hopefully do well. And so, yeah, that is what is happening in the greenhouse. Out with me as I got to take you on another walkabout, this time a fall walkabout in the middle of October. It is changing, and it's changing quickly. Fall is nearly here for us, and I am all for it. I am ready to wind down the summer season and embrace what fall can bring with the beauty, with the change of seasons, with an opportunity to exhale a little bit and slow down and take stock of how the season went, the summer season in particular. So until next time, happy gardening.